You are not a victim of your circumstances. Your external circumstances are a reflection of you, and you have the power to change that reflection. Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Lorena. I'm a somatic self-concept and manifestation coach, and I support women to shift their self-concept, embody a new state of being sustainably through a uniquely holistic and emotionally integrated approach so that you can manifest anything you desire in your life, all your most authentic, heartfelt, deepest desires. We're essentially bridging the gap between who you currently are or perceive yourself as and who you desire to be or become. You do not have to settle for any less than what you desire. So many people feel powerless when it comes to their external reality. Most people do. They feel like a victim of their circumstances. They think whatever cards they've been dealt with in life is what they are stuck with. Sometimes they feel punished because of the things that are happening. So they either give up and just settle for less than what they want, or they do some work to change their circumstances, but they are very much focused on doing that from the outside in rather than from the inside out, which is one way to do it, but it's very draining, it's very exhausting. And if they do look within, they often don't know how to actually shift what they find. It's important to remember that you look at everything you see externally or you experience externally through the lens of yourself, through the lens of who you are in relation to your circumstances, in relation to other people. So that includes your relationship with yourself. That includes the state of being you're in. It includes the beliefs that you have about yourself, about the world, about what's possible for you. And these beliefs quickly turn into a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you expect to see is likely exactly what you'll discover. Think about this, right? You can interpret the same event in so many different ways. One person experiences rejection and sees it as a form of redirection, refocusing, or protection, and another person experiences the same rejection and they see it as a personal failure. Or one person fails at something doesn't work out for them, and they see it as an opportunity to pivot. They get back up, they try a different way, they get the support they need, and they keep going. And then another person might just give up. And yet another person tries again in the same way, keeps doing the same thing, and expects or hopes for a different outcome that never comes. How you see and experience your reality is also based on your state of being, your state of mind, your state of consciousness, your emotional state, and your self-concept or your self-identity. Since we're talking about reality being a mirror of your psyche, your subconscious, your state of being, let's talk about other people in that mirror. So there's this concept that everyone is you pushed out, or everyone is your mirror in a way, because how people show up in your external reality is also based on your self-concept. Now, what's important is that this is not necessarily a direct reflection. If someone treats you badly, it doesn't mean that you deserve it. It doesn't mean that you necessarily treat them badly. It doesn't mean that you are bad. It doesn't even necessarily mean that you treat yourself badly. These situations can be very simple. Sometimes it's super clear what is being reflected back to you. I know a lot of people, a lot of the women that are in this community have a high level of self-awareness and have really tried to take apart their beliefs and looked at their reality and tried to determine why things are showing up. So you may be one of those women who have a high level of self-awareness, but very often it's very nuanced. Sometimes it's not clear from the beginning and you need to do deeper work to get to the bottom of it. You might need to get support to really create the shifts in your psyche and your consciousness, because you can have awareness of it but not really change things. And I firmly believe that if you want deep, sustained changes in your reality and you actually want to break the persistent patterns that continually keep manifesting outside of you, you actually need to work with a coach or practitioner that can help you get to the bottom of why these patterns are truly showing up, because it's not always that simple. You can then learn why you keep ending up in the same relationship dynamics, why you keep making the same choices again, why you keep being perceived in a certain way that you don't want to be perceived in public. And this is what I am a really big advocate for, and why I'm so proud of the method that I teach and that I have created and how I work with my clients, is because you need someone who not only helps you become aware of the patterns, but who actually has the skill set to coach you through changing your entire belief system around it and breaking these core patterns. Because from that place, you can begin to approach the world in a completely different way, including the people in it. Because if you just watch content about this on social media, you're not gonna get much further than just getting inspiration and awareness. People honestly strip this idea that reality is a mirror of your consciousness or your subconscious right down. It's a very simplistic idea. The concept is simple, right? Reality is a reflection of your subconscious. But the thing is, your subconscious is very complex. For example, a circumstance that might be showing up for you that is maybe also showing up for me might have a very different root in your subconscious versus mine. Your belief system can still be very different from mine despite having the same circumstance show up. And it can also be the other way around, right? Two people can have the same core belief, but it manifests completely differently. And there's a reason why it manifests differently, because it's actually a lot more nuanced than you may think. Just because you can establish, oh yeah, so this circumstance or this relationship dynamic is showing up because I have the belief that I'm not worthy enough. Yeah, that might be a core belief beneath it, but why is it manifesting in this way? What layers are in this belief? What emotional charges are in this belief? What needs to be processed? How can we shift this? That is really where the magic happens, right? So it's really, really important to personalize this. What works for one person will not work for another. Every client I work with, I might approach completely differently based on their backstory, based on their belief system, based on their desires. It might be a completely different path. And that's what it needs to be, because it's not the same for everyone. There is no one size fits all. And a lot of people take their circumstances and that reflection too literally. I get so many clients who are like, oh yeah, this is the circumstance I'm experiencing, and I know that this is how I manifested this. It's rarely ever true, honestly. And that becomes clear to them eventually, because number one, I teach a module in Recreate Yourself, which is about how to really get clear on the intricacies of what's being mirrored back to you because of how nuanced it is. And obviously my clients also get me with them hands-on to determine what exactly is reflected back to them and how that can be changed. I want you to experience such a deep transformation in your self-concept that you feel so empowered and embodied and whole that your reality gets to reflect that and you naturally manifest what you want. Which brings me to a very important point. You can look at your external reality and it will definitely show you if something is off based on what you're manifesting. Whether your self-concept hasn't truly shifted yet, it will show you that. But I would advise you to prioritize looking within more than you're looking without, because otherwise you're constantly trying to fix your reality rather than go to the place where it originated in the first place. The way I teach conscious manifestation is truly focused primarily on your self-concept and not just feeling into what you want to feel like or who you want to be, but a shift in your self-concept that is so deeply integrated and embodied. And I guide my clients through a process that the self-concept shifts naturally. And when that happens, the reality matches that new identity, that new self-concept. So you don't have to analyze what and why things are happening the way they are. I want to talk a bit more about the subconscious mind versus the conscious mind, because you are manifesting your external reality all the time, whether you want to or not. What you are experiencing right now is a product of your previous state of consciousness. If you're experiencing something that you do not want, then that means that there's a part of your consciousness, a part of your subconscious as well, that is available for that. In fact, there's a part of you that is choosing that exact experience unconsciously. So a lot of people will re-experience the same patterns over and over and over again because they don't really know how to change the patterns in their psyche, or they maybe don't have the right support system to help them in truly persisting in these new belief systems and behaviors and patterns. But your state of being is not just about what you're consciously aware of. You probably have some awareness around beliefs that you would like to change, right? Or maybe some assumptions that you make automatically. And that's because your subconscious filters your reality based on your belief system and based on your state. Which is why one person can have a perception of an event that can be completely different from the perception that another person has of the same event. For one person, an event might be wildly triggering or lead to them internalizing it. For another, they might not even see it. They might not even notice it, or maybe they see it even in an empowering way. And that all depends on your subconscious, because these are automatic reactions. This is not something that you're consciously choosing. If you were consciously choosing it, you would probably choose an optimistic or positive interpretation. But it's the subconscious choices, the subconscious reactions that really make the biggest difference. And when you change them at the subconscious level, then you won't have to manage your thoughts. You don't have to be careful of what you're perceiving. You don't have to consciously choose, because that would mean that you need to be aware all of the time. And there's a reason a lot of the programs that run within us run subconsciously, run on autopilot, because in a lot of ways it's helpful to not have to think about it all the time. Most of what you're manifesting isn't deliberate. It's coming from parts of your consciousness that you might not be aware of, or might not be familiar with, or have a relationship with. So instead of looking at your external reality and thinking, how did I manifest this? How did I create this? Look within. Leave your current experience alone and begin doing the work to reprogram things in your subconscious so that your reality begins to prove these new beliefs, rather than you having to analyze what you're seeing. And the numbers that people use for the statistics differ a little bit, but it's usually around the 90-95% of your consciousness that is based on the subconscious. Which means if it's 95%, you're only really aware of 5%. That also means, apart from the fact that having to be constantly aware and changing your beliefs through conscious thought, apart from the fact that that's really exhausting, even when you do that, you're only ever going to change a little bit. If you really want to shift your state, especially long term, especially for the deeper desires, the more heartfelt things, the things that feel difficult to achieve, then you need to dive deeper. I actually have a free subconscious reprogramming masterclass. It might be linked below. If it's not linked below, then send me a DM on Instagram and I'll send it to you. But in manifestation, the internal matters more than the external. Get familiar with your subconscious, get familiar with what's happening inside of you rather than what's happening outside of you, because that is just a mirror anyway. One of the things that we do in Recreate Yourself is that we work exactly with the parts of you that are choosing what you don't want. We are exactly working with the parts of your subconscious that are essentially sabotaging you from what you desire and that are blocking you from that. And you really need to do that work, because you really need a method that's holistic and emotionally integrated, so that whilst you're manifesting, whilst you're in the process, you can feel amazing about yourself and you can also get tangible results. It doesn't have to be one or the other. The internal might matter more, but if you focus only on the internal, nothing will ever manifest externally, really. That's when people live in their imagination. They are living in their head or too much on the spiritual plane, and they're not fully integrated and embodied in their reality. So they struggle to actually bring into the physical what they internally visualize or feel into. And then on the flip side, if you focus too much on the external, you stay in resistance because you're constantly looking for proof whether what you are doing is working or not. So use the subconscious reprogramming masterclass that I mentioned as a starting point to get into this work. If you want to dive deeper, of course, I have my coaching program. That's for those of you who are really committed, who are really ready for this, so that you can actually be guided through the process. And let me know in the comments below, what is something that you would like to change in your current reality? What is something that keeps being mirrored back to you? And what do you want your reality to look like instead? I want to hear your dreams and visions and desires, and I'll see you in next week's video.